Yep. Hit it, New Eddie.
Yeah, I know, right? All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Engage fluo injectors.
Engaging fluo injectors.
Fluo reactors at 80%, sir.
Fluo containment field is destabilizing.
Emergency fluo containment protocols now. All hands brace for impact.
Brace for impact in 3, 2, 1.
Holy balls, everybody. What's good? It's another episode of World 1-1 podcast. Before we jump into the meat and taters of the show this week, you can and should find us at our home at Podbean. That's world11.com. No, world11.podbean.com. There it is. It's coming back into my head. I'm foggy. Sue me. And then, of course, for audio, you can, of course, find us out at Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, and Spotify, and iHeartRadio. And we've got that YouTube channel thing, of which our guest this week has been around there a bit. I'm sure he could tell you more, and will tell you more about his channel. And then, of course, for all the cool live stuff, check us out over on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/World11 podcast, all spelled out, all one word. All that bullshit out of the way.
Choose your fighter!
I am, as always, Larry, your host, the Bearded Wonder. Joining me this week is Josh the LeGrew.
Hello.
Michael, the godless heathen, lord of Oreo factories.
Fair enough.
And our special guest this week, Sid.
Hi.
So, Sid, real quick before we get in, if you want to kind of share with everybody a little bit on your background, what you do and what brings you to us this week.
I do a lot of things. I think in this one thing that I have been known to do is run a YouTube channel, or ran a YouTube channel called Leonardo da Vinci, which is just a dumb name that one of my friends came up with, where I talk about video games, but from a very kind of personal perspective. Basically video essays with an interesting touch to it, I guess you could say.
Very much so. Right on. Now I'm just curious real quick. You said did past tense. What changed and when, out of curiosity?
Well, nothing, technically. So I've if you ever look at the kind of upload schedule that I had, I've got 7 videos on the channel. And for some reason they kind of defy all odds of the algorithm, and they still kind of get views and they still get subscribers. Not as fast as they used to, but I just haven't made a video in 2.5 years ish. No, 2 years. No, maybe 3 actually is coming to it. Saying that. Yeah, it's been a very long time. And it's literally because my focus changed, I guess. I mean, I've anyone who knows me will know that I've had God knows how many ideas and the scripts fully written out, ready to make into videos. It's just a lot of work writing, I guess, and I just have other things to do. You got to make this money, dude. I got bills to pay.
Right.
Okay. I was just curious. So
yeah, I mean, I want to get back into it. I have scripts. I just don't really have that much time for video games.
Understandable, trust me. As much as we do this shit on a week-to-week basis. Trust me, I think everyone in the room here feels you on that.
Yes.
So
I mean, I'm pretty sure I made a video about not having time to play video games.
Mm-hmm. So.
That's a real conversation there.
Yeah, no kidding. So, All right. Well, in that case, let's get into the usual first half of this shit show. Let's open up with
Oh my gosh!
Video games.
Michael. The fuck have you been playing this week?
Same as the last couple weeks, the new Darksiders. I'm just at this point trying to wrap up the last few things I haven't done yet. There's this bullshit platforming challenge that it's like 4 parts, and I just beat the first part after fist fighting it for a week. And that's kind of where I'm just stuck right now.
Did you ever get the don't kill X amount or more of Hellhounds challenge yet?
Yes, I did.
Did you? Okay.
Like, I don't even remember how I did it. I think I did it on accident, to be honest.
I know you were about swearing up and down the day that I was over.
Really
There's a new Darksiders game?
Yeah, Darksiders Genesis. It's
What the fuck is that? What?
it plays like Diablo. Like, it plays like Diablo. It's a prequel to the series. It takes place, I don't know how familiar are you with the series, it takes place right after they become the Horsemen. And this one stars both War and Strife, and you could switch between the two at will. They play completely differently. Like, War still plays like War, and Strife plays like a twin-stick shooter.
Okay, I'm confused now. Hold on, wait. So there's one where you play as War.
The first one you play as War.
Second one you play as Death.
Correct.
Third is Fury, right?
That's the one that plays like a Dark Souls game.
That's the last one, right?
No,
Right.
No.
Well, there's it's the newest one other than this one.
Yeah.
That's
What?
Yeah.
right.
So then just not going to call it number 4.
Because it's a prequel to all of it, story-wise. So they decided to call it Darksiders Genesis.
Okay, whatever.
THQ Nordic, thank you. You know.
Yeah, no shit.
Just finish the quadrilogy, man.
Yeah, oh my god, you have no idea. If they don't finish the story, I'm hunting people down. Because I've been obsessed with this series since the first one. When I picked up the first game, like, just on a whim. Like, the moment I read the back says you play as War, I was like, alright, I'm in. And,
Wait, when did this game come out?
this new one?
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
Well, actually, okay. The PC version of it came out in December. The home console version came out on Valentine's Day.
And was this not like advertised? Like,
THQ Nordic, so they just release it.
No, they advertised the shit out of it. There was a
Where? On
YouTube, but like, there's actually some really good trailers for it, story-wise and whatnot.
Okay,
It's good. Like, if you like the series, you have to
I
definitely
consider
check it out.
myself someone who I don't spend much time playing games, and I don't but I keep up to date with the news. You know, that's pretty much what my Twitter feed is, just people talking about games and making games and playing games. And the only thing that anyone talks about is Animal Crossing and Doom Eternal.
I know.
Which, fine, cool, I'm excited for both of those. And, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
But apparently there's no other games coming out because everyone's just been bumped. Cyberpunk's been bumped. What else has been bumped?
Everything.
Yeah, Last of Us
Everything.
was bumped back. Yeah, geez, yeah. Cyberpunk, which I was excited for. Last of Us, I was excited for. Those got bumped back.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, that's fine. That's all good.
Yeah,
So,
that's okay. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Darksiders, the 4th one, decides, okay, sure, whatever, we'll just release it.
I will say you're not wrong though. Now that you're mentioning it, I don't remember really seeing much of anything about it after it landed on my Twitter feed.
Right.
So
I wouldn't have known about it if it wasn't for Michael, to be honest.
Yeah.
That's probably I'm a fanboy, so I've been following it religiously ever since the first announcement for it. So,
Fair enough.
but yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, just trying to get through that fucking challenge. I hate it so bad.
You love every bit of the abuse and ask for more.
Completely irrelevant.
And Josh, what have you been playing this week?
I'm actually embarrassed to say I'm still slogging through Jedi Fallen Order, and I know it's becoming like a running joke now, but I am not good with Souls games. I have found that Souls light games or whatever you want to call them,
Yeah.
FromSoft games. I don't even care what you want to call them. I'm just not good at them. And it took me. I was on a boss fight for like 2.5 days.
Yeah.
So well, then I just started. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna play Hellblade again because not only did we have Sid on, but I thought, you know what? I never really finished that game, and I still didn't finish it. But I'm in Helheim now. I'm like actually going. I'm like kind of where you were on the last couple of streams before you finished it. I'm like right there. And that's where I was last time I stopped playing. But I'm gonna get through it. I just Monday is a bad day for me, so.
I hear
Yeah, Monday's a bad day for everybody, but for me it's bad. So, but those are like the two games I've been playing. I played a little more Kunai, just on and off. I'm thinking I'm gonna just put it down for a while. I like it, but I just need a little break
you. Right.
from the Metroidvania-ness.
How far did you get in Kunai?
I am in the mines right now, the cryptic mines or
the
crypto mines. Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't gotten that last whatever power you get
Yeah.
to move blocks or mountain big boulders basically. I haven't gotten that yet. So I'm like right there. I mean, how far are you in there?
Well, in that case, I'll just toss the ball into my court. I have been playing a bunch of Kunai this week, actually. I'm fair certain I'm in the end section. The last weapon that you're speaking of is the rocket launcher. And it's single shot and then you have to wait for it to reload on the single shot, unlike the SMGs that have the 5 clips.
Right.
But I will say the boss fight at the top of the mountain to get the rocket launcher was fucking awesome. And all I could think afterwards is, why aren't there more boss fights like this? This was just fun. It was. I think I would have had it if it was up to me, be one phase shorter, but I wasn't that mad because it was really good. It was a lot of fun. So plain and simple. So, but after that, like I said, I finished that up, and then kind of got whisked into this flying fortress section from the beginning of the game. It plunks you back there to essentially finish the job, which again, that whole flying fortress is disconnected from all the rest of the map, which makes me think this is the end game section, but not 100% certain, but it's got that feeling that it probably is.
Okay.
So other than that, was working through a second playthrough of Hellblade on stream. I got as far as the first of the Odin trials to claim Gramir. My whole week just kind of ran away from me. It hasn't been as shit awful as the week before was, but it's still a lot on my plate to try and finagle in. But like I said, I'm not mad about how far I got given everything that's been going on, but I will finish it up on stream, and the archive will be up on the YouTube channel. So for anybody that wants a point of reference to some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about in the third half of the show tonight, it'll be up there. I'm working on getting the existing stuff finished, cleaned up, and uploaded to the YouTube channel as well. But if you want to kind of catch the rest of it live, make sure you follow us on Twitch. Side note and shameless plug, you should follow us on Twitch anyways, because we're still working towards that 200 follower mark so we can give away the free copy of Blasphemous Collector's Edition on Switch from Limited Run Games. So that's still a thing, by the way. Free games, you can have them, just follow us. Anyways, but yeah, those have been my two big ones. I also dabbled in a teeny little puzzle game called Unlock the King, and I really like it. It was like 49 cents. You're giggling. Have you seen this, Josh?
I saw it. I did not buy it. I thought, you know what? Larry's going to buy that. I'm like,
I have. It's really good. It's totally worth the 49 cents.
Okay.
Granted, the stipulation I would put on there is do not buy this game if you don't like chess. It is literally like a micro chess puzzle game. Like, you know, the
And with that, I put down my Switch.
again, for 49 cents, it's not gonna hurt you that bad either. But in any case, you know the puzzle games where you kind of move the cars around so you can let the one red car out of the puzzle? It's a little like that, but it's structured and done specifically with chess pieces. And you don't have a full board. There's, you know, you get select spaces and all the pieces still move and are treated just like they would be in a game of chess, but you don't have a full board to actually move them around on. It's very compressed, and you've got to kind of think out, okay, these are 2 free spaces. First, I got to figure out what can move into those spaces from where it's at currently, start moving things around until the king has the ability to get from where it's at to the marked finish point using any of its available ways of moving. So, but I really like it. For a 49-cent game, I will easily see myself spending way too much time piddling around with it. So, but, and I'm going to toss the ball into your court, Sid, if you want to get in on this.
So I literally just moved into this place. And it's actually been the first time I've actually started playing video games in a very long while.
Nice.
Mostly just on the PS4. So the first thing I did was install an SSD into the PlayStation, which, my God,
Makes
Wow.
a difference. Yeah.
it makes
Yeah.
a difference.
Yeah.
And then pretty much the first thing I did is watch my wife play the Final Fantasy VII Remake demo.
Oh, okay.
So she's like a massive fan of the original, and I never really played it. I was actually going to I had a script written about imposter syndrome in video games, and Final Fantasy VII was kind of like one of the games that were like the key point in that particular topic. And I never just got around to playing it. I just could not be bothered, to be honest. It's 25 years old.
Right.
I got other things to do. Besides, like, play some.
Not only that, but that game does not age well. It's hard to play
it does
today.
not.
It's very hard to play today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hell, it's
PS4.
hard on the eyes.
Well, if you buy it on the PS4, you can at least speed up the battles.
Oh yeah.
But other than that, I mean, it's very difficult to play.
So yeah. So basically, my new hobby is watching my wife play video games. So she's been playing Final Fantasy VII Remake demo. And whenever we have a dispute, it's done in Tekken 7. So, and
Who's your name?
I don't really have one. Like, I can probably beat anyone playing Kazuya or Steve, but that's because I'm a button masher. I don't know any combos. I don't know any moves. I just smash the buttons. And she's been slowly learning how to like do the combos with Lily, and she's customized her character. And it looks amazing, and she just whoops my ass, and I'm just like, okay, I've had this game since it came out, since launch day, and she's been playing for like 2 days.
It's embarrassing.
It's very embarrassing. Now I'm actually gonna have to learn combos, which not my strongest suit, and we're playing a lot of Overcooked.
Okay.
Overcooked is a great game.
Yeah, it's a great party game.
It's fun. Yeah.
Well, not when she's yelling at you. Or when I'm yelling at her.
Yeah.
So,
I know. It's stressful.
oh, it's stressful. Hella stressful.
I wanted to love Overcooked, but I don't have anybody to play co-op with, and it takes all the fun out of it for me.
Yeah. I hear you.
Can you not play online?
I'm not big for online. Michael will tell you, if I'm going to play co-op, I'm a big fan of couch co-op. I like to actually have the experience of sitting and hanging out with my friends and playing, but I don't get the opportunity all but once in a blue moon. So Overcooked kind of went out the window for me. I wanted to love it. I like what it is in principle, but not having somebody to play with, to regularly play it with, just zapped the fun out of it.
Yeah.
It was a big reason why I didn't love Lovers in a Dangerous Space-Time as much as I wanted to either. So,
Well, I mean, my next kind of goal is to connect the PC, which is in storage, up to the television. So there's like 1,000 games on my Steam account, which I haven't played. I've just had this addiction to buying
digital
stuff on
hoarding.
sale.
Yep, digital
Yeah,
hoarding.
it's
I know.
the
I do that
worst.
same thing. It's
I
like
think that's what Steam is actually for.
Yeah,
know.
right. Just
Yeah.
selling you shit that you're never gonna play.
that's $2.
It's like, yeah, sure. I have every copy of Assassin's Creed, every game that they have. I haven't played a single one of them since the first Ezio game.
Newest Steam update rolls out with a feature enabled that just locks your ability to buy anything until you've played all the shit you own
Oh my god, imagine.
They'd go out of business.
instantly. They'd never make a dime again. So,
Either that or the birth rate declines.
true. So, God, I'm curious as to how significantly that would actually impact the birth rate over, I don't know, a 2-year period.
I mean, think about it like this. Like, say, I don't know, Cyberpunk, or even, controversially, Star Citizen. It's like, it's going to get launched. Here's the day. You can't access it until you've played 60% of your games on Steam.
I would buy it on console.
Hey!
Hey, I'm gonna do something else.
So, okay. Well, I think that brings us to a lovely place to stop for a minute, catch our breaths, and then sink into the back half of the show. Unless anybody else has anything they want to toss in.
No.
Yeah? Sounds good. Well, in that case, here's where we say break! And we're back with the third half of the show. This week, we're going to deep dive into a special topic with our guest Sid this week. You've heard us kind of, talking about in the weeks leading up to this, the subject of Hellblade and its portrayal of mental illness and psychosis. I believe I talked about it on air on the show several weeks ago when I first finished Hellblade the first time around. I came across a video that struck me hard, and I went, "Holy shit!" When I saw it, and it came from this fine gentleman here, Sid, talking about his personal experience with Hellblade and having a very unique perspective in playing it that most people do not. And I reached out, and he was very kind and very quick to say, "Yeah, sure." So, if you're willing, would you be okay with kind of giving some of your background on what gives you that very personal connection to Hellblade as a game?
Sure. Where does it begin? So I guess I was sort of diagnosed when I was about 9 years old. I started hearing voices, and they weren't very pleasant. And my parents, being the religious zealots that they are, thought they were demons. So they sent me to a religious guy with a big long beard and a funny hat, who would pray and whatnot. Didn't really help. Turns out, like, when you actually go to a real doctor, they kind of say, "Hey, yo, this guy is experiencing some very strange psychotic delusions, if you will." I mean, that's literally what they were. And it kind of led to what is essentially now like kind of like schizophrenia. But I have a very, like, the kind of the thing with me personally, I mean, a fair amount of people do have it, but not as many have a very kind of lucid experience. It's usually kind of like a always on or very kind of dramatic, and you're not really sure. You get the kind of like the walls are melting and you hear shit, you see shit. I don't really have visual hallucinations. It's more kind of auditory, and they're always there. Like at this precise moment, there's literally like a woman screaming outside the window there, and just like people talking and yelling and whatnot. And it just kind of goes on and on. I mean, the worst is when it's like just songs playing over and over again, really terrible ones like the Backstreet Boys over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that just kind of keeps on going, and it takes like an immense amount of focus to just kind of like be. But at this point, I'm 31 now. You kind of just have to just go with it. And like, obviously in times of stress, it's very hard to control that. And sometimes you do kind of have those meltdowns, those breakdowns, but you have to kind of just keep pushing. Obviously, it's not that, I mean, saying it is very easy to do. I mean, right now I'm pretty kind of chill. I'm doing okay. But like, you know, when you're going through really dark patches in your lifespan, you know, especially when you're like a teenager or even like through moments of hardship, it's very hard to kind of live. If you know what I mean.
Right. I would imagine to what you're speaking of, you know, just in terms of trying to keep it in check and not let it define your existence.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it does get very consuming, but you have to kind of ground yourself a lot all the time.
I've got a couple of friends with and to some of what you were saying that have Tourette's, and one of them once explained it to me in terms of on a day-to-day basis keeping his tics generally at bay and under control. He explained it as essentially just trying to have to build mentally a brick wall, but every once in a while something will trigger it and it will just smash that wall, and it takes him a day or two of literally just hiding in his room to just rebuild it so that he can function day to day again.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, it's fairly similar in my case, and I'm sure, I mean, that kind of analogy works with a lot of people with a whole lot of psychological disorders. Yeah, I mean, even like, not that I want to put things on like a scale of severity, but like obviously, so like the most common one is obviously like depression,
right.
that a lot of people face, and for the most part, people kind of just like live with it, and they just feel this immense sense of hollowness,
Right.
and just emptiness, and they just think that's normal, it's untreated, and then it comes to the point where like you have this disgustingly high rate of suicides amongst like young men, and you're wondering where the fuck did that come from. But you know, it's not easy to talk about, really, because like,
no,
how do you tell someone like, yeah, fuck it, dude, I don't want to live.
Right. And I
you
think
get
like you're touching on some of that too, like the stigma on mental illness is so great. Personally, I suffer from mental illness, depression, and when I was about 13, I was diagnosed. I had clinical depression and also like some mild schizophrenia. My brother, in fact, is a paranoid schizophrenic, and so he hears voices, and he got into drugs and all that kind of stuff. And so I saw all this. And I asked him one time, like, why do you do this? He goes, because when I do these drugs or I do this, he goes, the voices stop telling me what to do or stop talking to me. He just wanted like a little bit of peace, you know? And I think,
dude.
yeah, I know. And I mean, and I've had auditory hallucinations, especially in areas of high stress. Like in 2013, my wife almost died in the hospital. And I remember when I was sitting at home, because I couldn't stand it in the hospital anymore because I was hearing all these voices. And when I went home and then I heard the voices too, I'm like, and I'm on medicine for this, and I'm actually like dealing with it, and I'm still dealing with it. That was like really hit me hard. And so now I realize to find people that have gone through that, to me, is special, because and are willing to talk about it, because almost Some of the people get through almost like a PTSD type situation, like with it, like where you don't want to talk about it anymore. But personally, for me, I feel like talking about it helps. And so I need to talk about it so that I'm not so engaged in the whole thing all the time, you know?
Yeah.
I
How is
mean,
your
for
wife
me,
now, by the way?
oh, she's good. She's good
That's
now.
good to hear.
Yeah, that was now 7 years ago and everything, and she's recovered. But she was sick for a good 10 years of our marriage. She was really ill, on and off. So like she couldn't work. She still doesn't work, but she's getting to the point now where now she's like thinking like, oh, maybe I should get back to a normal routine. But it's so different now, you know. So, but that's a whole different thing. But everything's good.
So, I'm kind of curious, given your background with the subject matter, Sid. How much did you know on about Hellblade going in, and what made you decide to play through it, especially given the very severe warning that they put at the front of Hellblade? What made you look at this and go, yeah, this is a thing I'm going to spend, probably a solid 8 to 10 hours with, and I can only fathom the best way I could think of, at least for me personally, would be put yourself through that for, the duration of the game itself, to look at it and go through it, because I can't see that as being an easy experience. Lord knows, myself, the first time through, I sat with it, and I think I polished it off in about 3 fairly lengthy sittings. And every time I got to the end of any one sitting and I put it down for a little bit, I just kind of was like, ugh, that just playing that takes a mental toll, to put yourself in the middle of Senua's reality like that for any extended period of time. But knowing that that's something that you're already living with, and then to kind of have it double down by way of, willingly going through that game, I'm kind of curious, like I said, how much did you know beforehand going in, and what made you decide, yeah, that's a thing I'm going to put myself through?
So I knew way too much going in.
Okay.
Obviously, so at the time I was kind of following games media constantly. So, their entire kind of marketing campaign was literally based around this portrayal of psychosis. I mean, that's literally their entire campaign. They had their devlogs and all that, and showcasing everything and how they went about it, the interviews that they did, and so on. And then I did not play it for a very long time because I knew that I just did not want to. I mean, for one, I'm not very much into horror games or games I know are gonna try to elicit some kind of reaction. Definitely not my kind of thing. But then that year, at the end of that year, I was going through a really rough time. Basically a breakup, and that's when, obviously, stressful time in your life, and for 3 months, the voices would not stop. I kind of just I mean, to put it simply, I'm a very organized guy, and so when I had spreadsheets of my entire suicide plan, the costs, the financials of it, what I would do, where everything would go. It's a very twisted idea, but I like keeping things organized. It's basically Google Docs. I still have them somewhere. Letters to everyone, all kind of pre-written, ready to go. And then I kind of made a list of just a few things that I wanted to get done before the set date. And one of them was to experience this game and see if they got it right, really. So I thought, fuck it. But the only way I was able to really play it was actually So Discord has this feature where you can stream your screen to a friend in like a one-to-one call. So I had that came after. No, what I did was I had so I have like a Twitch channel, and then I have like a dummy Twitch channel which I use for like testing like encoders and stuff. And so I had a friend on Discord, and actually there was Jack and Phil and Dave. We were all in a call, and they were watching the stream, and they were just kind of like there to keep me grounded whilst I was playing. Terrible fucking gaming experience, because like obviously you got three idiots kind of just like talking about just random shit because they weren't really watching. They were just like, there to keep me have a point of focus and reference to the reality.
An anchor.
Yeah. So you got through that in a few sessions. And I was recording at the same time. And then like I guess the inspiration hit me to like I just didn't tell anyone about this ever. Like when in previous like relationships, especially like someone where you're incredibly close with, I would never ever tell them. I just kind of like lived with it. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, at what point do you tell someone that? Like, you do tell them at the beginning. It's like, hey, yes, I hear voices. They'll just like swipe right.
They're
and
like,
go away.
we're done. Yeah.
Precisely. Do you tell them at the end? Because then that's just a guilt trip at that point. That's manipulative, no? Or do you tell them in the middle when it's kind of like, it's just a very awkward time. So I just decided to just carry the burdens, I guess. And so obviously when you have like just regular stresses of life, whether they're like family, friends, finances, work, relationship stuff. So obviously that comes with the added, the voices, the screaming, the sounds that you just don't want to hear and whatever, just constantly going. And so obviously those stressful moments became amplified more. I don't know what the point I was trying to make, but the point was that like, the hard shit. I played the game and I thought, fuck it, I'll make a video about it, because at least share personal experience. And I think it was like the 7th video, so I was like, hey, lucky number 7. Let's just round it off in a with a prime number, I guess. Fuck it. And I'll be done with that. And then I kind of like went into a dark spiral and so on. In the first like 15 or so days, it got the usual amount of views that I had at the time, which is about like 20,000-ish, which is, kind of what that kind of type of video gets at the beginning, and then it kind of just fades down, and then eventually over time it kind of builds up. And then out of the blue one day, like my subscriber count went from like 5,000 to 25,000 to like 40,000 within the space of like 24 hours. And obviously like it was getting shared and had this small level of virality. And me being the dumbass that I am, I have this bad habit of at the end of my video saying, hey, if you're struggling or whatnot, talk to me. I'm your guy if you need someone to talk to. Because at the time I was like,
right,
0 subscribers, whatever. And you have, and so I had a Discord server which was run by my friends and myself, and they kind of ran the show in a very kind of light-hearted way. Sorry. And we had a small community of people based on the older videos, and then all of a sudden, like thousands of people just came pouring in. And I had that was like literally the point that I had to kind of like wake the fuck up and like put the suicide plan on hold and be just like, okay, I gotta attend to these people. So there was like 128 messages every morning. I had replied to every single one of them and had calls with all of these people like every day for months. To help them through what they were going through, which in hindsight, terrible idea. Don't do it.
Right.
Or at least try and get paid to do it at the very least. It's a lot of messages and a lot of calls to take. But yeah, I mean, that was kind of like, I mean, that's kind of part of the reason as to why I stopped making videos, because a lot of my time was spent with these young, a lot of them young people who were basically just suicidal. I mean, I've had to talk people down off bridges on Discord, which is the stupidest thing. But at the end of the day, like I said, I would listen at the very least. So you kind of have to. So that was the case for about 1.5 years. Yeah.
Let me just say that hearing that makes you probably one of the most upstanding people I have had the privilege to get to talk to. Holy shit. Just,
I mean, I try, but like, I mean, you do lose some along the way, and that always, like, I mean, they're the ones that kind of, they're on the playback.
yeah.
Over and over, but yeah.
But I mean, just, from what you're saying though, that explosion of response that you just weren't expecting, but still taking on every bit of it, that's tremendous in a way that I can't begin to fathom. And good on you for that. And to anybody that you've helped or on behalf of, thank you. That's incredible. Jesus. So, but I wish I could say it's on a slightly lighter note, and it maybe is, but that got heavy for a hot minute. But kind of bringing it back to Hellblade, though. Out of curiosity, from your personal experience, what did they get right, and what do you think, or what do you feel did they get wrong or was missing in terms of how they tackled the subject matter and portrayed psychosis?
So what they got right definitely was the audio. So a lot of the time when you're describing kind of like psychosis or schizophrenia or kind of like auditory hallucinations, and sometimes people just like who don't have any kind of history of it, they'll get these kind of experiences. It's not like, just this constant like whisper, 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 whisper. It's not like that. It's literally like everywhere. Like above me, there's technically no one up there, but I can hear like pots and pans crashing. Like I know no one lives up there, but you can sense this kind of there's a sense of like spatial awareness, which they definitely got right because they did this whole binaural audio recording thing. I mean, they did do a lot of the whisper, whisper, whisper nonsense, which it's filler. But like in terms of the things that are said, it's like, a lot of it's very kind of like negative feedback, if you will. But at the same time, there is a lot of positive feedback. It's a mix of things, and that's one thing that I definitely would commend them for, because like, as much as like the voices that I hear are kind of like negative, there are a lot of like ones that kind of guide me in a direction that is probably better for me than not. And it's the challenge is, which ones do you trust, essentially, at the end of the day, if you do trust them at all. I mean, sometimes you'll be standing on the a train platform, and one of them's just like jump, and then you get one of them just like, no, step back, and you kind of like, depending on whatever your state of mind you're at, whatever the cortisol level in your bloodstream is kind of like, which one do you go? And that's like my mornings. Basically, that's me every morning. Yeah, so that's one thing that they definitely got right, in that, like, sometimes there is that, hey, watch out, and then you have to block the fucking guy with the ram skull for a face. Yeah, but then on the other hand, like, I guess it's down to like production budget, but like one thing that really takes you away from the game, in my personal opinion, is the additional characters. So there's I can't. It's been so long since I played, but like the priest guy that always shows up.
Druth.
Him.
Truth.
Yeah.
Yep.
The he's recorded in some kind of like video and then overlaid onto the thing, and I find that just ridiculous. And just, it's kind of like, well, no one really experiences shit like this. That's, I mean, if there was, from what I understand about like visual hallucinations, it's kind of like the environment kind of just like twists and melds in a way. It's kind of like, when you're a kid and you kind of like, and it's like late at night and there's like little blinking lights on like the TV or something, like the little red dot, and like because everything's out of focus, it kind of like makes faces and shapes and stuff. It's more like that than it is like, oh, here's a projection of a guy with fucking lime on his face. It's
right.
Yeah, that. I mean, I guess that's obviously just down to their production budget, and they couldn't, model and animate another character, which they didn't, for whatever reason. But I felt like they could have done without it, amongst other things. Yeah, and I don't know. I probably could have, if were I a game designer, and I'm not, I would probably have said to like maybe cut a few hours off the game. There's a fair amount of repetition, in my opinion, which I get having, because obviously when you're paying $30 for a game, you expect a certain amount of time or whatever. But I feel like there was padding in the puzzles and the whatever other kind of gameplay loops that they added in for the sake of it. I felt like it would have been a lot more of a smoother experience if they kind of like trimmed it and kind of focused on more of a narrative approach with a little bit of combat. I mean, the combat wasn't amazing, but it did what it needed to do. I'll tell you one thing, that the last bit, the last fight, which never ends, that was a great moment for me, because like at some point you do end up just having a very kind of endless experience.
And I part of me kind of wonders in terms of, because like you said, the combat feels very repetitive and very sloggy, and at a glance I would almost agree with you that it's padding, but part of me wonders if some of it's not intentional to induce that sense of living with that as a repetitious drudge that wears on you constantly, and it doesn't get any better. It doesn't get any more interesting. It's just welcome to reality. It is this same thing over and over, and it will never get, better or more interesting or easier. It just continues and it just wears away. So
I mean, absolutely, I do agree that is definitely an interpretation of that, and I don't know if I mentioned it or not in the video, but personally, as someone like who, so I mean, if you look at the game as a game, the mechanics, I mean, as a narrative game, it does great. It's a fairly compelling story. It's pretty original. And as a mechanical experience, it's a bit shit. But if you look at it as what I guess they intended it for, which was like a piece of art in this, here's a thing, this is a piece of art, experience it, then yeah, I guess that is the point of it. But I guess that comes into the more kind of philosophical question of like, why make it that long, or why do it this way or whatnot, when you could tell the same kind of thing without, I mean, once you go through like a few of the same fights over and over again, it's kind of like we get it. Yeah, I mean, like that. Like if you could equate it to say, like, modern like blockbuster films, like how many times are you going to see a faceless army just kind of being beaten to shit by the three main characters?
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with you by any means. Like you said, mechanically, it's got issues, but for me, especially in retrospect, after having come across, your video on the subject, um, I'm look, I've taken to kind of looking at it somewhere between a combination of less a game and more a piece of art and almost a lens to view the world in terms of, at least to a degree, what it would be like living with that disorder, on a constant nonstop basis. And in terms of that very nonstop feeling, I think some of that repetition uh, plays well into that aspect. So, because if I remember correctly, I think you did speak to it in your video that the whole thing is just exhausting to try and hold at bay and to
Yeah,
try and live with, day to day. So, and I think some of that comes through in that, very repetitious, uninteresting combat.
yeah.
So,
I mean, it is very much like the story of Sisyphus, in that like you're
mhm.
constantly rolling this boulder up, and you know, I mean, yeah, the boulder comes back down, but it's beating you up on the way down too.
Right.
Yeah,
So you're not only getting anywhere, but you're worse for the wear for it every time.
yeah,
So,
yeah. I mean, like, I guess if they were given a bigger budget, then they may have done something a bit more with it. But I don't know. I mean, I'm not a game designer, and so I'm not entirely sure how to improve the game. But then again, they are making a sequel, so
and I part of me wonders, how much of that was just down to the direction and the intent of what they were getting at.
yeah,
If the intent was to very much gamify it, I think you're right. Go do something to break the repetition of the combat and make it more interesting. But if the intent was to give the player a lens, a glimpse, then I think maybe they did it the right way. It just
oh,
comes down to
absolutely. I mean,
maybe
like,
artistic intent.
yeah. I mean, if it were a 4 hour experience,
Mhm.
then it would probably like be. I would consider it one of like the best games ever, one of the best pieces of art ever,
Yeah.
because it educates, it inspires, to a certain degree, it entertains, and it's informative. Um, but due to the fact that they are selling it as a game with this addition of like you said, a lens, it's that's what takes it down from a 10 out of 10 to an 8, if you will.
Right. Oh. Um. So I'm curious because I've seen a lot of people unhappy, to say the least, with the ending scene in terms of the end of the game and then what kind of comes after. How she, and here's your spoiler warning, but it's been out for a couple of years, so if you haven't played it yet, it's on you. But you know how Senua kind of just snaps out of it, for lack of a better way to explain it. And I've seen a lot of people, you know, voice their opinion that it feels very disingenuous to the character and to the story that they just got finished, playing through. And I'm kind of curious as to what's your take. Is there you know, in living with it, is there, you know, those moments where it blinks off just long enough that maybe everything just kind of snaps and you have this moment you're like, oh, I'm okay right now.
So when I first played it, I felt very conflicted because, like, again, back to that kind of like games and art discussion. When you're when you've so like obviously that very last kind of like fight, if you will, is just this never-ending horde of shit that just keep coming at you. And the idea technically is that you keep fighting, or you just die and let it consume you, and then the game ends with this ending where she kind of just like, oh yeah, I can't actually get my husband back, and I'm just gonna snap out of it and accept reality. Which kind of just makes it very strange and confusing in that, like, on one hand you could interpret it as like the entire game was just in her head, which fine, yeah, sure, makes sense. But then on the other hand, it's kind of like, should you promote giving in to your demons and let it just completely consume you, and then hopefully you just wake up? Because I know a lot of people who, you know, do let their demons consume them and they don't wake up like ever again. Like it's an interesting kind of like dichotomy there. It's like, what is the interpretation that you want to go with? Like, on one hand, like, I don't know, were you really making a kind of art piece about it? You could either do the, you let it consume you and then it's game over, and it's literally that, just game over. Because I mean, at the very beginning of the game, there was that whole warning of like, oh, if you know,
Right.
if you
if you fail,
permadeath, basically.
You fail, you get permadeath. Yeah.
Yeah, like, and obviously that doesn't happen. It's literally just there to kind of like put you in a state of fear to help you kind of get into the zone, which cheap trick, but it worked.
It was very effective. Holy
it
shit.
is effective, yeah.
But then like if they kind of like followed through with that, which is that if you get to the end, that end fight, and like you have to keep fighting, and then I guess if you take it from a metaphorical level, if you kept fighting, like arguably, if you just kept fighting for like a whole like month of just straight, just like, I'm just gonna eat and shit and drink at this very spot here, just pressing fucking square, just fucking on the controller, then yeah, sure. That would probably be an accurate representation of what living with psychosis is like, because you're just constantly at it and you have no choice but to keep going. And if you don't keep going, then it's over. And the only way that you can win is that whole classic, hey, the only way to truly beat this game is to not play it, or whatever. Even that has strange, like, thinking about it now as a terrible metaphor to it. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one to do. I mean, I thought the ending was a bit stupid, but it did have my favorite song at the end, which was a nice touch. VNV Nation's Illusion. Gets me every
really?
time. Yeah.
That's the ending song? Seriously?
Yeah.
I haven't actually played the game yet.
Okay. Sorry, spoiler. Fuck.
No, you're fine. Like Larry said, I've had years. I bought the game. I have no excuse. But the fact that VNV Nation is in it, holy shit, that's awesome.
I mean, it's VNV Nation's Illusion. As soon as I started playing, I like that song. Like, personally for me, like, it's a proper, like, you know, in my darkest moment, I've had that song, like, sitting there, you know, crying, one perfect tear rolling down.
Done it.
Yeah, and obviously when that started playing, I was like, holy, now you've just ruined my fucking day. You can't do this now.
Oh, yeah, I gotta see this now. Not that I wasn't going to begin with, but wow. Because that was actually the song that got me into VNV Nation.
Dude, I started with Dark Angel. Like, I was old school. Man.
Oh no, well, because I've loved Assemblage 23 for years, and like, you know, bits and pieces of the genre, but VNV Nation for some reason just escaped me. And then one of my friends had just bought the album with Illusion on it. I forget which one it is. and she was playing it, and I was like, I don't know what this is, but I need a fucking copy of it right now. So, and like then as soon as I said, I took that home and devoured that album, and then bought everything they've done since.
Oh, same.
Yeah, I ended up seeing them in Chicago a couple years ago, like a couple times actually, and they put on a phenomenal show.
Surprising considering just the two of them.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, like, as I said, at the time I was seeing a lot of stuff like that, like, Imperative Reaction, just Assemblage 23. Assemblage 23 has been one of my favorite bands for a very long time. So,
No, same.
yeah. Like a friend of mine actually managed to have I don't know how he does these, one of those people that tends to just know everybody. So he just literally picks me up one day and goes, "We're going to Indianapolis." I'm like, "Okay, why?" He goes, "You'll see." And we get to Indianapolis and find out that we're on the guest list for an Assemblage 23 show. So we're hanging out backstage with Tom Shear for the whole thing. And I'm fucking drunk off my ass by this point. And so I'm slurring through, "Hey, why didn't you guys play 30,000 Feet? It's my favorite song you've ever done." 30,000 Feet is not a song that would go well live because it's such a tragic song.
Yeah.
But yeah, good times.
So I've got a last couple of questions that I want to hit on, but before I get there, Josh, Michael, is there anything you guys want to throw in that I haven't touched on yet?
Honestly, like as I said, I don't have anything that pertains to the game because I haven't actually played it yet. The most I've seen is I watched Larry's part 1 of his playthrough, and the game looks tremendous, but I get the repetitive nature of it. Like visual puzzle, repetitive fight, visual puzzle, repetitive fight, and I could see that getting old. The questions I do have are more just like, I guess kind of a slightly more personal, are like, one, like, are you medicated for this in any way? Is there medication for this? For your
I was on medication. Now I'm on a just straight meditation and being in control of my life. I mean, so like after like about a year of the whole Discord pseudo consultant thing that I was doing, I literally like took a whole like year out on a kind of self-improvement vibe, but without the tagline. I got into shape and started taking care of myself. Met the girlfriend, soon to be wife, and moved into this. I mean, during that period of time, I think that I imposed a kind of like a homelessness to myself. I was living on the streets for shits and giggles for like 6 weeks, just because. I don't know. It's a very strange time in my life, but yeah. At present, no. But I think it's because right now I'm in a pretty good place. Like changed jobs, met someone like incredible, and I mean, so like this is a prime example actually. Like obviously in the video I touch upon like that kind of dark period of my life and the person I was with at the time, not knowing or understanding what I was going through. And obviously that story ended. And obviously, like I touched on before about like relationships and living with this. So obviously it's kind of like steadfast rule is just not to bring it up, not to talk about it and whatever. But like she discovered the video herself. And she was very understanding of it. And like obviously she didn't get the full grasp of what it is, but she's been incredible about it, and I think that's kind of like part of what's helping me heal as an individual, is that like, okay, she may not completely understand it,
but you're not alone in it.
I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to be alone in it. Like no
Yeah,
one's going to truly understand the true extent
right.
of it, but like she does her best to accommodate me at my worst.
Now, out of curiosity, given that, does that kind of change your stance on not saying anything to your significant other? I mean, obviously, she, like you said, she came across it on her own by way of the video, but without that, would you have said anything, or
I would not have said anything. One thing I've learned over the years is that it's good to be honest about what you're going through, and it's good to talk about these things. But that doesn't stop what, because at the end of the day, human beings are a mix of like good and shitty. And they treat you very differently.
Yeah, that's
They
true.
treat you very differently when they learn like truths about you. Like, I think there was one point where like colleagues at work found out, I think again through finding this video, just like out of the blue. I guess the SEO on that video was fucking great because everyone just fucking found out. So they found out, and then they treated me real differently. In fact, it came to a point where like they requested that I work from home for the foreseeable future, which is probably the worst thing you can do with someone at that stage in my life. Like in this complete like isolation for like 3 months, didn't speak to anyone, didn't see anyone, didn't talk to anyone. So yeah, people do it with the best intentions technically, but it's not. I mean, that's what it's not.
Sometimes I wonder if people do this stuff because it's best for them, not necessarily best for you.
Oh yeah, I mean, like,
and there's like a self-protection mechanism for themselves. I don't really get it either because I don't. But you're right; they treat you wholeheartedly differently.
Yeah.
Some people do.
Sometimes they'll walk around on eggshells around you, which kind of just makes you think, what's the point in this?
Condescending. It's condescending. Yeah.
Yeah. But I found that no one's against you.
Right.
They're just for themselves, which isn't wrong. It's just different.
Yeah, different. Yep.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's very rare that you'll find someone who's like, yeah, fuck the guy who can hear shit that we can't. I mean, we're way past that stage in human civilization. They're saying the 1500s no more. They can't burn me at the stake. I'm not a woman. What?
I want to ask.
You're gonna fit right in. You're welcome back anytime.
Yeah. The Discord thing that you were talking about, the helping other people. How, like, when you stepped away from doing that, from helping people with it, was it like literally you just had to say, okay, I can't anymore, I'm done, or did it actually just kind of peter off on its own?
It petered off. So what happened was obviously that was the influx, and obviously you can't like reply to everyone instantly. And so, like, everyone understands that, oh, yeah, he's busy, he's dealing with one, and I'm going through them as quickly as I possibly can, one at a time. Sometimes it'd be about like 16 calls a day. And you go through that, and then obviously sometimes like days go by without, talking to someone, and you kind of do have to follow up and catch up, and it would go on. And then, like, obviously, if the community grows when you're like being consistent with it. So if I was consistently making more videos, then I would have furthermore people joining that Discord server, which, by the way, was called the Sidcord, like Discord. So, and then like eventually because I wasn't making anything, there wasn't anyone new coming in. You could have like the odd trickle of people who would like suddenly discover it, and then like out of nowhere 20 or so people would come in and they'd join the community. But at that point I'd kind of like I tried to automate it as much as possible in that, like, so on the server I designed a number of like channels, which are like the obvious ones. You have like the looking for game channel, the voice channels where you have like 4 people are allowed in, 5 people are allowed into this one, 6 on that one, 8 for this one. So you can have like different levels of interaction. And then I created this section called the personal channels, which were then broken down into like a bunch of different ones. So you had relationships, which is like if you got family problems, girlfriend problems, boyfriend problems, that kind of thing. Then we had the sexuality channel for people struggling with their sexuality. Then you had, I would say, I think it was called work. So anything like finance, money related. Obviously, that's a point of stress and pain in people's lives. So you could kind of like vent and share in there. And then, well, I mean, the piece de resistance was this channel called Wins, because you can't just have constant negative shit. So, but the aim of that channel was to encourage tiny little wins. I mean, like, obviously, for a big community of people who are all depressed and the only interaction they have is people on Discord, like, getting them to fucking, like, shower, like, that's a win. You did it. Let's get moving. Next step. That's, yeah, encouraging people to just...
Any step forward.
Yeah. One tiny, it doesn't matter how slow you're going, so long as you're going forward. So that, yeah.
Have you ever checked out there's a YouTube channel called People Watching? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I haven't heard of that now.
They're basically like short animated skits that deal with a lot of things like this that you may be interested in checking out. I forget the people who actually make it, but like the first one I ever saw was I found it right after a nasty breakup that I went through, and it's like it was called like The Troubles of Dating with Depression or something like that. And it's like the main character is talking about how she'll go on a date, that the date seems to go really well, but then there's like this hipster douchebag in her head that basically just tells her what a piece of shit she is, and the guy has no interest, and et cetera, et cetera. And she ultimately will end up listening to this voice, even though it's not, nobody's actually there, and abandoning the entire thing because the voice in her head eventually told her it's not good for her. And there's a whole bunch. I think there's like 2 seasons worth of it. It's really good stuff. Highly recommend.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Josh, I think I may have cut you off inadvertently, and I didn't mean to. Is there something you wanted to toss in?
No, you
Okay.
didn't cut me off.
Okay. So last couple of questions, just to kind of round this out. The sequel is now impending, come the end of this year. Is it something that you think you're gonna stick, dip your toe into, or after Senua's Sacrifice, are you just looking to steer clear?
You know what? Just for shits and giggles, I might just do a video. See, well, first of all, I want to see what the game is about, and then 6 months afterwards, then I'll just like throw out a video, and then see what the world says. There'll be a lot of he's back. Oh shit, he's even more depressed.
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said I'm not. I am real curious as to like where do you go with a sequel, given the way they ended Hellblade.
Yeah.
It's like, so
I mean, that's a story. It's kind of like you did her bit,
right?
That's it. That's what you read. I mean, it's. I mean, I don't know what you could do with that story, but I mean, it's up to them. Like they know what they're doing. So, like, I'm not excited for it. I'm curious. They have my curiosity.
Yeah. They've definitely got my curiosity, and I would say there's at least some level of excitement of mine that they have, because I mean
they also have Microsoft money,
right?
Yeah, which is a lot.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to throw you the one question that came off of Twitter, just to lighten the mood a little bit. I'm guessing you probably saw it on your feed somewhere. But Pikastani wanted to know from you specifically, why won't you love me?
he asks me this all the time, and my
I
answer
think
is
there was
always
probably an ongoing joke there.
Well, no, it's just like where I used to live before I moved here, like I'd see him on the train like every day for like years in the mornings, and then whatnot. So he used to watch my. So before the video essays, I used to do. I did a daily vlog every day for 5 years. Before vlogging was a thing. Apparently, I'm just the guy who does things before they become like real hits, and I never capitalize because that punk rock life. So I did a daily vlog every day for 5 years, and he was a guy from my hometown, and he was just there. And one day I was at the cinema, and he was working at the cinema, and I was just like, hey, I want to watch this film, and I want some nachos. It's like, you're Sid, aren't you? And I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And since then we've been like friends, so yeah. I guess.
But yeah, sorry, I saw that on there. I'm like, I can't not throw that out because it made me giggle when I saw it.
Hey, just for Eddie's sake, what was one of those questions that he always throws out to guest stars?
Oh God, what's your favorite breakfast cereal?
Yeah.
That's his go-to. He asks it every time.
I don't have a specific. Well, I don't know if you guys have it. It's called Crunchy Nut Cornflakes with like chocolate clusters. So basically, it's like I don't know how you describe it. It's like bits of like oat and other cereal things, but then it has like nuts in it, peanuts, and like chocolate swirls.
Sounds awesome, whatever it is. I mean,
I would say the closest thing I could think of was like honey bunches of oats if you mixed in some chocolate stuff.
probably.
I mean, possibly. I'm not sure. Yeah. That's just, it's a very British breakfast cereal. But then, I mean, it's made by the Kellogg's company, which I'm pretty sure is international.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
they're actually based not far from where Michael and I are. That's a couple-hour drive.
Are they really?
Yeah,
Go there and
Kellogg,
ask
Michigan.
Huh.
I've been to
where
the factory.
fuck is
Yes,
my Crunchy Nut?
I've been to the factory, and it's in Kellogg, Michigan. So it's kind of neat.
God, I hate the fact that I never realized that. Fuck.
There's actually a really nice water park up that way. So, but that's
Wait. A water park in Michigan. There's no way I'm touching any water in Michigan. Ever.
That's actually safe
I've
and
seen what
water.
the fuck you guys do to your
It's
water.
actually kind of
Disgusting.
At least it freezes in the winter. Down here, this stuff is breeding whatever forever. I live in southwestern Florida, so
Oh god, dude, you have too much water.
yeah,
You have
exactly.
water in your air.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a problem.
so. Well, I think here's a good place to wrap it before we get any more long in the tooth, and we probably have. But I'm not mad about it at all this week. I want to say thank you very much to Sid for joining us. So big kudos and shout out. Thank you. This has been tremendous.
Thank you for
So
having me.
most definitely. Shout out anything you want to plug. Knock yourself out.
I shitpost on Twitter every now and then at Leonardo da Sicci, and that's it. Maybe one day you might see a video from me on youtube.com/Leonardo da Sicci, or you could just watch a bunch of videos that I have made, which, I mean, for the most part, have aged fairly well because they don't pertain to any particular hype cycle. So, yeah.
Yep.
If you feel like crying, I made a video about Hellblade and living with psychosis. That's a real tearjerker.
And there will be a link to that in the show notes. So, but I say definitely watch it. It's what brought this whole thing here today. So, but beyond that, like I said, thank you to Sid. Thank you to Josh and Michael for joining us. Thank you to all 5 people that listened to us today. If you enjoyed this, make sure you subject your friends to it by strapping them to a chair and putting headphones on them until they cry and just succumb to it and say, yes, I will keep listening. On that note, you should also gently caress the inner thigh of the subscribe button or slide us right into your RSS feed, because with enough lubrication, anything fits. And then follow us on Twitch if you want your shot at free stuff. It's kind of like the free candy van, except we have video games. So, with that said, I think we'll end this show right there until next week. So, with that said, everybody say goodnight, Gracie.
Good night.
Good night, Gracie.
Peace.
Stay sexy.